Clay Nelson, Life Balance, our full and complete communication today's show. Bonnie Raitt, and what a gal. Okay, 5 tips we've gone over so far is for full and complete communication is stop and think about who you're being when you're communicating. That's number 1. Number 2, talk straight. And to talk straight, you have to ask permission to talk straight, make sure you've got people's attention. Number 3, you can't assume anything. All right? And remember Susan was talking about a donkey, and we got real straight that assumptions are bad things to make. Full and complete communication number 4 is make sure that those you're communicating with clearly understand what you're communicating. And we talked about checking in and letting people know, hey, I'd really like to know what you heard, because I don't want you to do what I did. You remember teaching from first person, not ever embarrassing anybody. Step number 5 is being an effective listener. And we really talked a little bit about what the filters were that keep people from really hearing. Some of the filters are, clothing, perfume, what somebody looks like, what kind of hair they have, or how about somebody that looks like somebody that beat you up when you were 12, or wouldn't let you get in the fort when you were kids, that kind of stuff. It's all the filters that keep you from really being present to what people are saying. And then I gave you an example of being present by standing you up and say, look down, and can you see your feet? And you said, you said you did. Actually, you didn't, but I'm assuming you did. And what would it be like to have your head be exactly where your feet are all the time? I mean, really, what would life be like where everybody fully communicated to each other all the time, and you were totally 1,000% present to the communication? Think about that. How many times have we gone somewhere and done something or said something? We were dead cold wrong and thought we were right based on the data that we got. Think about that one, okay? Now, so the show today is all about how to communicate fully, and quite frankly, how to want to communicate fully. It's all about, forgiving people for what they say because they didn't say it right, or forgiving yourself for what you heard because you didn't hear it right, and then moving forward. Now, the one way to check in to see if you really got what the speaker was saying was to ask, hey, I want to tell you what I just heard, and I want to know if that's what you want me to get.
Clay, speaking of checking in, we have someone who is working on their full and complete communication.
Okay.
Welcome to the show. Who do we have on the line?
Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Clay.
I need to fully communicate. Jaron didn't push the button. We were waiting. Go ahead.
Well, what my question is, what do you do when you ask someone for clarification on what they're saying, and you still don't get it? Like they are pretty much talking over your head, and they don't get that they're talking over your head?
Yeah.
How do you ask them to clarify?
Okay. Well, there's 2 things that you need to do. Okay. Mm-hmm. One is this the first time you asked, or the answer they give you after you asked the first time is still over your head? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's what I thought. So no, but that's all right. See, a lot of people really get tied up in really enjoying hearing themselves talk.
Yeah.
and really the communication's all about them, Mm-hmm. And how cool they are, how much they know, or how much more they know, or how better they are. Gosh, or they just like hearing their own voice all the time. Pretty pleased with themselves.
Yeah.
And then what you need to say to them is say, I really appreciate what you're saying, and I really want to be a part of the team, and I really want to do what you're asking, but I just flat don't understand. Can you give it to me a different way?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a good communicator can give out what he or she is saying 5 or 6 or 7 different ways. Like when I give speeches across the United States, I say the same thing 4 or 5 different ways, so I know everybody in the room got it.
Okay.
See, because as a speaker, you're only as good as what the listener gets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally got that.
Yeah. So in your case, I think one of the things I need to advise you on, a lot of times when people are speaking from a place that it's all about them, if you stop their flow, they get a little incensed.
Yeah, exactly. I don't necessarily want to hurt their feelings and make them feel like what they're saying isn't valuable.
Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to say, I don't know if I totally understand. Now, can I give you what I think you said?
Oh, okay.
You got it?
Yeah.
And so then you just recreate what you think they said, and then they'll jump in, hopefully in a respectful way, and show you either where you either went wrong or what you missed.
Yeah.
And what happens is you start developing a relationship and communication with this person, and you'll end up liking each other, maybe.
Maybe. maybe.
Maybe.
Question mark.
Question mark. Okay, hon?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye now. Okay, now, so full and complete communication, all right? Step number 1, stop and think about who you're being, all right? Now, stop and think about who you're being, and I mean that, especially with kids. Remember I said, if you want to make a difference with a youngster, you have to get down to their eye level, all right? Step number 2 is talking straight. Ask permission to shoot straight, and then shoot straight, and then be respectful enough to say, hey, are you all right with what I said? And if you're not, let's clean it up and keep on trucking, you know? Step number 3, don't assume anything or anybody. Don't assume anything or anybody. Step number 4, this is a good one. This one's a hard one. Make sure those you are communicating with clearly understand what you're communicating. That's the last caller. That's what we talked about, okay? Now, step number 5 is, you know, one of the great things about being an effective communicator is that you can effectively listen also. If you can't listen, you don't know if what you said was gotten by the people you were speaking to. If you're all about you, only half of the communication cycle gets to be mastered, okay? So think about that. An effective listener is only as good, all right, as what they can hear. So what happens when you're listening to somebody and you're assuming them, you already know what they're going to say, and you're better than them? What do you hear?
What you want to hear.
What you want to hear, right? See, I always listen to people for what I don't know, both either about them or about the topic. I always want to grow, always want to get a little bit better, right? Always want to hear more. I always want to learn. If I'm going to take the time to listen to somebody, there's got to be a gold nugget in there someplace for me, okay? So be an effective listener, all right? Don't assume, all right? You need to take the time to stop the person if you need clarification or more explanation, and that's what that listener was talking about. You don't wait for someone to ask you, you know, what you got from the communication. You know, before leaving the meeting, you want to absolutely be sure that what you got from the communication is what you were supposed to get, all right? Because you don't have any extra time, and you don't want to have to do your job over again, okay? Also, I got to tell you, there's a lot of fairly good communicators out there that don't take the time to check in with the listeners to make sure they got it. But what they do is when the listener doesn't do what the communicator said, then the communicator gets upset with the results of the listener. And they make the listener wrong, and they don't want to be responsible as a communicator. Now, I know that was a mouthful, but if you can follow that, you know, communication is about side A and side B. One's speaking, the other one's listening, but A and B both understand at the end of the communication what A said, okay? The responsibility is on A. The responsibility is always on the communicator. So if the job didn't get done right, guess what? The person that delegated the job, spoke the job, or asked that the job be done, if it didn't get done right, it's the person that did the asking and the communication. Now, that's a tough one to buy because it's always easier to make someone else wrong. It says, well, I told you. Well, I said it. Well, if you didn't get it, it's your problem. And the truth is you can't do that, all right? See, there's a conversation I had. I just spoke at the Custom Builder Symposium in Florida last week, and I had several hundred people that I was talking to, and I said to them, I said, look, I said, life is all about LGT, LGT, LGT. And I had them stand up and just kind of say those letters like a mantra, LGT. And LGT stands for learn, grow, and teach. Now think about that. Just think if the rest of your life was all about learning and growing and then teaching what you learned. All right, so if you're going to learn, grow, and teach, you have to be able to communicate. Communication is where learn, grow, and teach comes from. Now, when I get back, I'm going to talk more about this, so get on back here. You're listening to Clay Nelson Life Balance Hour on KZSB AM 1290. So come on back, LGT, let's get it on.
Scared to run out of time.